There's a woman, let's call her Linda. Linda is 54. She eats less than she ever has in her life. She skips breakfast, counts every calorie, and even forces herself through 45-minute cardio sessions 5 days a week. And yet, her belly keeps growing. Her jeans feel tighter, her energy crashes by noon, and late at night she reaches for snacks she told herself she wouldn't touch. Last month, Linda sent me a message at 2:17 a.m. It said, "I feel like my body is working against me. I'm doing everything I used to, but nothing works anymore." And if you're over 40, maybe her story feels painfully familiar. You're not lazy, you're not weak, you're not broken. You're just playing by rules that no longer apply to the body you have today. How we lose weight in our 20s or 30s, just eat less and move more, doesn't hold up after 40. Not when your hormones shift, not when muscle mass declines, not when your metabolism changes and stress, sleep, and even past trauma begin to show up on the scale. In today's video, I will walk you through a new, science-backed approach to finally losing belly fat after 40, without crash diets or punishing workouts. We'll uncover the real reason your waistline is stuck. Why is focusing on fat the wrong strategy? And what to do instead, starting today. Let's begin with part 1. The real reason belly fat won't budge after 40. Let me tell you something most weight loss programs won't. After 40, your body changes, and it plays by a new set of rules. You may still be doing everything right, cutting carbs, eating less, working out, yet the stubborn belly fat seems glued to your waist. And the worst part? You start thinking it's your fault. But it's not. What's happening is that your metabolism, hormones, and muscle mass have quietly shifted behind the scenes. These shifts are subtle at first, but over time, they stack up. One of my patients, Mark, 48 years old, told me, "I used to lose 5 pounds in a week just by skipping dessert. Now I skip whole meals and nothing changes." Sound familiar? That's because by the time we hit our 40s, we begin to lose lean muscle mass, something that most people don't even realize is the engine behind a healthy metabolism. Muscle isn't just about strength. It's your body's most metabolically active tissue. It helps you burn more calories at rest, regulate blood sugar, and even manage hormones like insulin, which plays a massive role in where your body stores fat, especially belly fat. When you lose muscle, your metabolism slows down. Your body becomes less efficient at using glucose for energy. So where does that glucose go? Often, straight to your midsection. That's why belly fat tends to creep in, even if you eat less. It's not just about what you eat. It's about what your body can do with what you eat. Here's the hard truth. If you're trying to lose belly fat without addressing muscle loss, it's like fixing a leaky roof with duct tape. You're focusing on the symptom, the fat, without fixing the root cause, the loss of metabolic tissue that once kept your body balanced. But here's the good news. You can turn it around. Your body still responds to the right signals. And muscle, even after 40, 50, or 60, can be built, strengthened, and preserved. That's your leverage. That's your long-term solution. So don't blame yourself. Instead, shift your strategy. The goal isn't just to weigh less. It's to rebuild the engine that burns fat in the first place. In the next section, we'll dive into exactly how to do that and why focusing on fat is holding you back. So let's talk about why it's time to stop obsessing over fat and concentrate on muscle. Stop obsessing over fat. Start focusing on muscle. Let's be honest. When most people talk about losing weight, what they really mean is, I want to lose fat. More specifically, belly fat. It's the area that feels most stubborn, most visible, and let's face it, the one that messes with our confidence the most. So naturally, we focus all our energy on burning fat, cutting calories, trying fat-burning supplements, and stepping on the scale like it holds all the answers. But here's the catch. When you obsess over fat, you miss the real driver of change: muscle. I had a patient, Diane, 62 years old, who came to me after doing every diet you can imagine. She had lost 20 pounds, and yet her belly still felt soft, her energy was low, and her doctor had just warned her about rising blood sugar. What happened? She lost weight, yes, but she also lost muscle, the very tissue that helps your body manage glucose, burn calories efficiently, and keep your metabolism working for you instead of against you. You see, muscle is more than just tone or strength. It's your body's metabolic headquarters. It stores glucose, stabilizes blood sugar, supports hormone balance, and even improves how your body uses insulin, a hormone deeply tied to fat storage. When you lose muscle, your body becomes less efficient. Blood sugar stays elevated longer. Insulin works harder, and your body starts packing away fat, often around your midsection. This is especially true as we age, because we become less responsive to protein and strength training unless we do them intentionally. That's why many people over 50 say, "I'm eating less than ever and still gaining weight." It's not that they're overeating, it's that their engine, their muscle, is fading. The shift we need is this. Stop seeing fat as the enemy and muscle as optional. It's the opposite. Muscle is your protection, it's your power source, and it's your best ally in not just losing fat, but keeping it off in a natural and sustainable way. And no, you don't have to look like a bodybuilder. You must rebuild enough lean tissue to support a healthy metabolism and blood sugar. Diane? She shifted from dieting to lifting weights twice weekly and focused on protein at each meal. 6 months later, she had lost fewer pounds than before, but 3 inches off her waist, her labs had normalized, and she felt strong for the first time in years. That's the transformation we want. So how do most people get this wrong? And what are the dieting traps that actually make fat loss harder after 40? Let's unpack that in the next section. Dieting mistakes that are making you gain more fat. Let's talk about something that no one warns you about when you hit your 40s. Dieting. The kind you've relied on your whole life can actually make you gain more fat. It sounds backward, I know, but it makes perfect sense once you understand how your body changes with age. Picture this. Steve, 51, came to me frustrated and burnt out. He had lost 30 pounds doing intermittent fasting and low-carb dieting, but 6 months later, he had gained almost all of it back, and his waist was even bigger than before. "I don't get it," he said. "I ate less. I did everything right. Why is this happening?" The answer is something I wish more people knew. When you lose weight too fast, primarily through aggressive calorie cutting or skipping meals, your body doesn't just burn fat. It breaks down muscle too. And as we discussed earlier, muscle is your metabolic engine. So now not only are you lighter, but your engine is smaller, weaker, and less efficient. This means when you go back to eating normally, even healthy foods, your body burns fewer calories, stores more glucose as fat, and often regains the weight in the form of belly fat. Another common mistake? Skipping meals, especially breakfast. Many believe they're being good by pushing their first meal to noon. But for people over 40, skipping breakfast can backfire, especially if you're already dealing with blood sugar imbalances or stress-related cortisol spikes in the morning. When your body doesn't get nutrients early in the day, especially protein, it may start tapping into muscle for energy, raising blood sugar later and triggering cravings at night. That's how a good fasting day ends with mindless snacking on the couch. Emotional eating is another hidden trap. After 40, life gets more complex. Family stress, aging parents, career changes, and health fears pile up. Many people unknowingly use food to cope. And restrictive dieting often makes this worse, not better. Deprivation creates a mental scarcity loop. You feel good when you restrict, but when willpower fades, and always does, you rebound hard. That binge-restrict cycle isn't just exhausting, it's damaging your relationship with food and metabolism. So what's the better path? Start with stability. That means building meals around protein, eating enough calories to support your muscles, and creating sustainable eating habits, not punishing. Steve, for example, began eating a protein-rich breakfast, eggs, avocado, and berries within an hour of waking up. He added 2 strength training sessions per week and stopped skipping meals. In 3 months, he had dropped 2 inches off his waist, had more energy, and for the first time in years, he said, "I feel like I'm not fighting my body anymore." That's the goal. A way of eating that supports your body, not one that starves it. But what about medications? A lot of people over 40 are now turning to GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic or Zepbound for fast fat loss. Are they helpful or harmful? That's what we'll unpack next. The truth about Ozempic and GLP-1 drugs. If you've watched the news or opened social media lately, chances are you've heard of Ozempic, Wegovy, or other GLP-1 drugs that promise fast, effortless weight loss. And if you're over 40 and struggling with weight that won't budge, it's understandable to wonder, should I try it? Let me start by saying this. These medications are not magic, but they are powerful. And when used correctly, they can be a helpful tool, especially for people with serious metabolic issues. GLP-1 drugs mimic a hormone that helps regulate blood sugar and appetite. They slow down how fast your stomach empties, help you feel fuller longer, and in many cases, reduce cravings, especially for sugar and ultra-processed foods. However, the part most people miss is that these medications are a tool, not a solution. If you take them without changing your habits, especially how you eat and move, you risk losing the wrong kind of weight: muscle. A patient, Carla, 57, came in after losing 25 pounds on a GLP-1 drug. Her scale weight had dropped, but so had her strength, energy, and mobility. When we tested her body composition, she had lost a significant amount of lean muscle. Why? Because she wasn't eating enough protein and wasn't doing any resistance training. Muscles are susceptible to inactivity and undernutrition, and GLP-1 drugs often suppress appetite so much that people unintentionally eat far too little of what their body actually needs. This matters even more after 40, when muscle is already harder to maintain. The good news? It doesn't have to be this way. In my practice, we use GLP-1 medications strategically, but we always combine them with strength training, protein-focused nutrition, and lifestyle support. And when that happens, we don't see muscle loss. In fact, we often see improved insulin sensitivity, better sleep, and more consistent energy. However, another cost that rarely gets talked about is the emotional and psychological trade-offs. Many people describe feeling disconnected from food, or even from themselves. Food becomes mechanical. Eating feels like a chore. And while that might sound like a blessing if you've struggled with emotional eating, it can also rob people of joy, social connection, and the more profound healing that often needs to happen around food. So the key question isn't just, should I take Ozempic? Am I using this as a support tool or as a shortcut? Because if you're not ready to change how you live, think, and treat your body, the results will be temporary. And when the drug stops, and eventually it will, the old patterns will return. That's why I always say, no medication can replace muscle. No shot can replace strength. You can use GLP-1s to create momentum, but lasting transformation comes from learning to feed, move, and trust your body again. So if protein is the look at why it's the most underrated and misunderstood nutrient after 40. How protein really helps you burn fat and feel full. If there's one nutrient that deserves more attention, especially after 40, it's protein. Not just because it's the building block of muscle, which we've already talked about, but because it quietly supports nearly every system that helps you lose fat, control cravings, and stay energized. The problem is, most people, especially women over 40, are drastically under-eating protein without even realizing it. I had a client, Julia, 59, who came to me exhausted, frustrated, and constantly battling late-night snacking. She was eating what she thought was a healthy diet: oatmeal in the morning, salad at lunch, and soup or pasta for dinner. But when we looked closely, she barely got 40 grams of protein daily. That's less than what her body needed to avoid deficiency, let alone preserve muscle or burn fat efficiently. Protein works on multiple levels. First, it's incredibly satiating, meaning it helps you feel full and stay full longer. In fact, when you eat a high-protein meal, your body naturally releases GLP-1, the same hormone that those weight loss drugs like Ozempic try to mimic. That means more protein equals better appetite control, without needing a prescription. Second, protein supports blood sugar stability. Pairing it with carbohydrates slows glucose absorption into your bloodstream, helping to prevent the crashes and cravings that often lead to overeating. And third, perhaps most importantly, protein is the only macronutrient that directly supports muscle synthesis, the tissue that drives fat burning. The more muscle you have, the more energy your body burns at rest. This is especially important after 40, when muscles naturally become harder to maintain due to something called anabolic resistance. In simple terms, your body needs more protein and more resistance training to get the same muscle-building effect it used to. So how much protein do you really need? A good starting point is between 0.7 and 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. If your goal weight is 150 pounds, that's roughly 105 to 150 grams of protein per day, spread across meals. That might sound like a lot at first, but when you plan, it's doable. Julia added 3 eggs and a handful of turkey sausage to breakfast, a grilled chicken salad at lunch, and salmon or beans with quinoa at dinner. Within weeks, her energy returned, her late-night cravings disappeared, and she was finally losing fat without feeling deprived. The key takeaway is this: protein is not just for bodybuilders. It's for moms, dads, teachers, retirees, anyone who wants to feel strong, stable, and in control of their hunger and metabolism. When you get protein right, many other things start falling into place. But what if overlooked factors in midlife muscle loss? Low testosterone. Yes, even in younger men. Let's unpack how hormones might be quietly holding you back. Testosterone, aging, and muscle loss in men. When most people think about testosterone, they imagine bodybuilders or athletes, not everyday men in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, just trying to stay healthy, strong, and active. But the truth is, testosterone plays a crucial role in how well your body builds and maintains muscle. And for many men, those levels start to decline much earlier than you might think. I've had men in their late 30s and early 40s come into my office, confused and frustrated. They're working out and eating better, but still can't build muscle. They feel tired, unmotivated, and often carry more belly fat than they used to. One patient, Mike, 47, told me, "I've been training harder than I ever have, but I just feel flat. I'm not seeing results." We ran a full hormone panel, and his testosterone was well below optimal for his age. Now, here's what's important. This isn't rare anymore. Low testosterone is becoming increasingly common, not just from aging, but from modern life. Poor sleep, high stress, processed diets, lack of movement, and even environmental toxins like plastics and heavy metals can all chip away at hormone health. Testosterone isn't just about sex drive or mood. It influences energy, motivation, fat distribution, and, most relevant to this conversation, how your body builds and holds on to muscle. Even with the best diet and training, results become harder to achieve when levels drop. Your body becomes less anabolic, meaning less capable of building up. That's when men start to lose confidence, not just in their appearance, but in how they feel in their skin. But here's the hopeful part. Testosterone can be supported naturally. Mike, for instance, didn't jump straight to medication. We looked at his sleep. He was averaging 5 hours a night. We cleaned up his diet, reducing processed food and adding more zinc and magnesium-rich foods. He cut back on alcohol, reduced exposure to plastics, and began strength training consistently. His testosterone levels improved within 4 months, and so did his results in the gym. He added muscle, lost fat, and most importantly, felt like himself again. That said, for some men, especially those with consistently low levels, medical support in the form of testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, may be appropriate, but it should always be part of a bigger conversation. Are you addressing the root causes? Are you building the lifestyle that supports your hormones, not just relying on medication? The takeaway is this. If you're a man over 40 struggling to build muscle, don't ignore the hormonal piece. Your body might be asking for help. And when hormones are aligned, everything else, energy, mood, muscle, fat loss, starts to feel more achievable. Can use immediately. No gym membership required. Testosterone, aging, and muscle loss in men. When most people think about testosterone, they imagine bodybuilders or athletes. Not everyday men in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, just trying to stay healthy, strong, and active. But the truth is, testosterone plays a crucial role in how well your body builds and maintains muscle. And for many men, those levels start to decline much earlier than you might think. I've had men in their late 30s and early 40s come into my office, confused and frustrated. They're working out and eating better, but still can't build muscle. They feel tired, unmotivated, and often carry more belly fat than they used to. One patient, Mike, 47, told me, "I've been training harder than I ever have, but I just feel flat. I'm not seeing results." We ran a full hormone panel, and his testosterone was well below optimal for his age. Now here's what's important. This isn't rare anymore. Low testosterone is becoming increasingly common. Not just from aging, but from modern life. Poor sleep, high stress, processed diets, lack of movement, and even environmental toxins like plastics and heavy metals can all chip away at hormone health. Testosterone isn't just about sex drive or mood. It influences energy, motivation, fat distribution, and, most relevant to this conversation, how your body builds and holds on to muscle. Even with the best diet and training, results become harder to achieve when levels drop. Your body becomes less anabolic, meaning less capable of building up. That's when men start to lose confidence, not just in their appearance, but in how they feel in their skin. But here's the hopeful part. Testosterone can be supported naturally. Mike, for instance, didn't jump straight to medication. We looked at his sleep. He was averaging 5 hours a night. We cleaned up his diet, reducing processed food and adding more zinc and magnesium-rich foods. He cut back on alcohol, reduced exposure to plastics, and began strength training consistently. His testosterone levels improved within 4 months, and so did his results in the gym. He added muscle, lost fat, and, most importantly, felt like himself again. That said, for some men, especially those with consistently low levels, medical support in the form of testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, may be appropriate. But it should always be part of a bigger conversation. Are you addressing the root causes? Are you building the lifestyle that supports your hormones, not just relying on medication? The takeaway is this. If you're a man over 40 struggling to build muscle, don't ignore the hormonal piece. Your body might be asking for help. And when hormones are aligned, everything else, energy, mood, muscle, fat loss, starts to feel more achievable. Now, speaking of achievable, what does a realistic muscle support can use immediately. No gym membership required. Final message. Build a body that works for you, not against you. At the end of the day, everything we've discussed, from muscle loss to metabolism, from hormones to habits, comes back to one central idea. Your body is not your enemy. But it might feel that way if you're over 40 and struggling. Maybe you've been eating less, moving more, trying harder, and still not getting anywhere. Perhaps you've looked in the mirror and thought, what happened? But here's the truth I want you to hold on to. Your body isn't broken. It's just been missing the right kind of support. And building a body that works for you again doesn't mean chasing the body you had at 25. It means building strength, stability, and metabolic health that helps you live better at 45, 55, 65, and beyond. It means shifting your goal from being skinny to being strong, from being tired to being energized, from surviving the day to showing up fully in your life. I think of a woman I worked with named Brenda. She was 63, had battled with her weight her whole adult life, and told me, "I'm just tired of fighting with my body." We stopped dieting. We stopped chasing the scale. We focused on eating enough protein, building strength twice weekly, walking daily, and improving her sleep. 6 months later, she hadn't just lost inches. She felt like a new version of herself. "I finally feel at home in my body," she said. And that, right there, is the win. Because your body isn't just something you live in, it's how you live your life. And when it's strong, supported, and appropriately fueled, everything else becomes easier, from energy to confidence to longevity. So here's my challenge. Pick one small change to start tomorrow. Maybe it's adding a protein-rich breakfast. Perhaps it's taking a 12-minute walk after dinner. Maybe it's dusting off those dumbbells in the garage and doing 10 squats. Start there. Your body will respond. And with time, momentum builds. You don't need to be perfect. You need to begin. And if you've ever wondered, what if I have insulin resistance? Or could that be the hidden reason why I'm storing belly fat no matter what I do? Then stick around. In the following video, we'll dive into how to recognize the signs of insulin resistance and what you can do to reverse it naturally at any age. Thanks for watching. Remember, your health is your greatest asset. If you found this video helpful, give it a like, share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll keep bringing you clear, science-backed information on obesity, weight control, and living your healthiest life, so you can take charge of your future, starting today.